Any questions about the previous week or what you've experienced?
No. Obviously, I'm curious to know how she did when she was
Yep. Want to get your remote? Get your remote? Yep. So now we can start correct the reactivity stuff. What's your number?
I'm at 53.
Go ahead and tap. Tap. Let's go down to 35.
Listen, you gotta stop doing it. Not like you're...
And tap. And what you're gonna do here, yep, is light up, tap.
Off.
Shorten your leash a little bit. There you go. Good. So if she gets out of place there, what you want to do is give physical direction. First thing I always do is up and away, because she jumps on you and she's scratching you or whatever.
Yeah.
And if we're dealing with aggression, if there's a chance of redirect, I'm always up and away. So so short enough that if the dog goes up, I go up with them. But also if they try to go sideways, they're not going to reach me until I can do this. So how you have that leash there is the perfect length. So if she's trying to jump on you, you have that immediate leverage. Most people tend to hold the handle. So then they're all the way up here trying to like control the dog, and then the dog's up close. At the facility, no problem. The only time they had an issue is when they had given her, I think it was breakfast or dinner, and she spilled it. And when Bree went to go get it, that's when she became defensive over the kennel. Otherwise, outside of that, once she was inside, no problems.
Okay.
So
she was doing a little resource guarding.
Yeah, over the food for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
And when we fed her, I was like, I'm pretty sure she's gonna guard this from what I do. So I told my handler, I was like, be ready, because I think if she spills her food, this is gonna happen. Sure enough, it did. And she filmed it too. I just gotta watch it. Because I tell them to film everything so I can see what's going on, and also educate them on that wasn't an unsafe approach, but it's a safe approach. But otherwise, with the handling stuff, in terms of pulling her in and out the kennel, no problems. We did keep her muzzled because we don't know her fully yet.
Yeah.
But other than the food stuff, I don't think there's any. We even fiddled with the muzzle. I think they even tightened it a little bit. They fidgeted with the collar and all that stuff, and no issues once she was inside the facility. I handled her, and I had no issues with her. So
I wonder if she's starting to get comfortable around you. She knows you. She's seen you a couple times. What if that's what?
Oh, like right now, I doubt it, because of that. Or even just like with that reactive moment right there. Like there's still, because there's different contexts of things. So imagine like, you ever taken the CTA bus?
Of course.
Or train?
Of course.
Okay. Let's say it's a really busy cart. There's 2 seats empty. 1 seat is next to you. 1 seat is next to somebody else.
Right.
Somebody sits down next to you. Do you care?
Ordinarily not.
Right? Because it's a full train, right? But let's say you're on an empty train and there's you and one other person, and there's tons of seats, and someone sits right next to you.
It's irritating.
Yes, right? Because you're like, why would you sit next to me? There's all these options.
It's like the urinal.
Yeah, exactly, right? You got
Dude,
space.
back off.
Exactly, right? So it's the same thing here for Penny. Okay, everything's about context. So she may be fine with us, and I think you guys even noted it prior, like, oh, when they've taken her inside, she's fine when she's away from us. It's when she's with us. So you want to start seeing things in context. Okay? So in the context of you guys not being around, she was comfortable. Until the context of food being spilled in the kennel, right? Same thing here. You pop up with her, you turn around, I was like, hey, how you doing? She starts barking, okay? Like even there, you see that little head movement?
No.
I said, rawr, and then she went, what's going on with you? Because there was a change in energy.
Yeah.
These are things that dogs are very sensitive to, that we have, as humans, have gotten desensitized to, because we know that it's like non-threatening. But for a dog like her, it's on edge, and that kind of her line of thinking is like assume threat, and put out threat before I get hurt. Is this typically how dogs think? She's super primal. She doesn't know that there's laws and stuff that protect her, that I mean no harm here, and stuff like that. Her genetic code, the anxiety or nervousness that's part of her makeup is part of that reason. Tap.
Off.
Tap. 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 And there we go. Good. So when we get that jump, okay, our first response, or the most common response, is move back, or move in, or say off. Okay. What I want you to get used to doing is going straight to the remote. Okay. If anything, when she jumps on you, use your leash to counter her, to direct her off of you without cueing it, and then tap to make her remove herself. Okay? Light pull up here. Yep. There you go, and relax. Good. So, for dogs, the way their brain works is if they jump on you and you say off, technically they can jump on you until you say off. Okay? But if she jumps on you and you remote her for the act itself, she thinks if I want to avoid this, I just don't jump. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So it's a very common thing, like.
She doesn't connect it to me. She doesn't connect the sensation to me.
Correct.
But she hears me talking. She definitely connects it to me.
Right. So she's thinking if I hear him say something and this follows, then I'll stop when I hear that. But technically, until he says that, I can keep doing it.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Yeah. So this applies to all types of behavior. So that's why if you want to sit, you would say sit. The dog does it. Right. But if I want a dog to automatically sit, every time I come to a stop, I tap them until they do so, and the dog thinks, all right, if I want to avoid this, I better just put my butt down whenever he stops moving. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's an easy concept. Once you get it, it's like, oh, okay. So whenever Penny's doing something, I want you to think to yourself, do I want to control this or do I want to eliminate it? If you want to eliminate it, you simply remote it until she stops with no cue.
Right.
Okay? If you want to control it, you would need a verbal cue first prior to the remote. So like let's say she's barking out the window, you don't want to eliminate it because maybe you like the security, you would say something like quiet, and then there would be an aversive to empower that word quiet. Okay? So until you say something, she can do so. But maybe you don't want her barking at people when they walk up to you on the street. You want to eliminate them. So the moment she starts barking at me or whoever it is, you simply remote it until she stops without shooting it. Does that make sense? So what I usually suggest is that people make a list of stuff they like and don't like, or they want to control and they want to eliminate. Put it on their fridge, so like everybody has a consistency amongst the household of what the rules are. Okay? Yeah. We got to run and possibly coming by this way, just as a heads up. So, aside from that little moment we had last week, and just with the walking stuff, how's that all been going for you?
It's been going well.
Okay.
Trying to remember if there are any specific incidents. You know, the one thing that she's very reactive to.
Okay.
When we're in the car, she sees anybody.
Sure.
I went to the drive up today, and there was a car next to me, and there was a guy, like, whatever, dealing with his checks or something. And she just went nuts because there's a guy sitting there. And it almost, goes back to what you were saying about she just assumes everything's a threat. She assumes every person's a threat.
Yep.
It doesn't matter who it is. And then I'll take it one step further, and I assume that it's almost like she's got archetypes for what is a threat. So if she sees someone wearing a mask and sunglasses, that to her is very threatening.
Sure.
My brother came over to the house on the 4th of July, and she's met him a bunch of times. All of a sudden, he's a big dude. She just goes crazy. She wanted a piece of him.
Okay. So what we're gonna do today is we're gonna start targeting the behaviors and correcting them.
Okay.
Which is simple. So this is an aversive. Okay. Aversives are meant to stop it.
Yes.
Or just make it happen again, right? So I'm already kind of teaching you how to do so. Like when we were doing the jumping on you, that's obviously a lesser degree behavior. But like when I came into the picture, if you started lunging and barking at me, I'm gonna go tap, right? You weren't set up yet, that's okay. But now we want to be ready. Okay? We want to anticipate things. So I would anticipate the next time I see you again. I mean, into your personal space, you probably have no issue with it. You want to have that remote ready, right? If you're outside, if you're in the vehicle and you're out on the drive-through or something, and you're like, I'm gonna drive through, there's people walking around, I'm gonna assume she's gonna have an issue with this. Have it ready, okay? So that this way you're not fumbling for it. Same thing, like if you're in the lawn, you go get together, she's on the left, you leave the leash bag, do so. Somebody gets on the moves too quick, right? Now you can correct it, okay? So, for me growing up, I was raised old school, spanked. That's reversing, right? Now, it can be both motivational and a deterrent, right? Technically motivational. I didn't do my homework. It's spanked. So then I want to avoid spanking, so I'm going to make sure I do my homework now, right? That's different. But I can apply that as a human. Or let's say I talk back to my mom. There's another spanking there. Don't talk back to me again, right? So same thing for Penny here. we're using it both as a motivator and as a splitter, right? When she starts lunging and barking, or if she starts to jump on you, using that aversive, that correction, that spanking, if you will, to deter her from doing it, right? How we decipher what's effective or not is her behavior. So what's your number at 35 right now?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So we dipped it down from 53 to 35 because I saw that 53 was too much power. Okay. So if we have too much power in the beginning, the dog panics and they don't really think logically about what's going on and how to stop it and then maintaining that lesson. It's too harsh, right? So instead, I go to 35. I'm going to see how that works, right? So like, let's say I did an exercise where I would come up and say, hey, how are you? And she lunges the first 2 times, and you correct her with 35, and she stops. And then on the 3rd, 4th, and 5th time, I go, hi, how are you? She doesn't lunge. What does that tell us? 30.
She's telling you it's going to have consequences.
Correct. At 35 was effective, right?
Right.
Then we come back tomorrow, and we repeat that same exercise. And I say, hi, how are you? Right? And she doesn't lunge from the first one all the way 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I go, great, 35 not only stopped it, but she's retained it because we're on the next day repeating the same context and she's not responding, okay? So that's improvement. But let's say I keep moving into your personal space and each time you have to remote her. You can stop it, but you have to remote it. Then I go, okay, 5 out of 5, she's still lunge there. Come back tomorrow, 5 out of 5, she's still lunge there. Tomorrow, 5 out of 5, right? Then I go, 35 is enough to stop it in the moment, but not enough to dissuade it in the future. Right? So then we play with our numbers. Then we go to 40, we go to 45, 50, right? We keep playing with that number until we find, 65. Now all of a sudden she doesn't want to lunge and bark anymore, and days go by, weeks go by, and she's not giving me that behavior anymore. We found a consequence when she's thinking, do I really want to risk it? No, it's not worth it. So instead I'm going to keep myself in check. And then the brain starts to process things. So like, let's say for whatever reason, maybe she does perceive threat for me whenever I enter your personal space, right? And then you correct her, she cuts the crap. Then it allows the brain to observe. And she's thinking, all right, I'm perceiving threat. Dad's saying I can't behave this way. And Jesse's still moving into our personal space. But nothing bad is happening. Then the brain can start learning and having of, I don't have to anticipate threat when Jesse moves into my dad's personal space. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because she's seeing it happening. Because right now she's being a step ahead. She's like, just in case, I'm going to lunge and bark at this guy. In case it's a threat. So we don't have to worry about that. Okay? So technically, in my opinion, she's not coming from a bad place. But obviously in our world, where we have laws and there's vicious dog stuff and all like that, if someone comes into your personal space and she bites them, that's a problem. It's a liability. It's possibly a lawsuit. That's where there's a weird gray area. But in her world, it's perfectly natural. Okay? Do you have any questions about this?
Nope. No, one thing I did notice is that it just seems to vary so much from dog to dog. And I don't know if it's a personality thing or
Absolutely.
experiential thing, or they've had a lot of situations where they've had to bark, or there's some basic reward for it on some level or whatever. But so it's down to the individual dog, and that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah,
personality. Right? There's some people genetically are just more anxious people. There's somebody recently I was talking to, and they were kind of like her, where everything was a just potential. I don't want to say threat, but like similar, like a degree less than threat. Like everything was a potential bad experience. That's just how they're wired. And I look at the world very differently than they do. So dogs are the same way. I've learned throughout the course of 10 years working with dogs, we're not that different. Okay? It's only that we have a language or languages, we have an imagination, and we can see past, present, future. But we're still driven by instincts. It's just we've evolved to a point where there's we're not meant to have houses and trucks and businesses and stuff, right? It's supposed to be grass and hills and trees and we hunt and farm and all that stuff. But humans have developed to this point. So for dogs, that kind of fitting into this world where there's a lot of stuff that's not supposed to be around, creates that unfamiliarity that they're like, well, how do I live or coexist in a world like this? So it's our job to help them. So this is like the easier stuff. The hard stuff is how do we get Penny to stop going after it? That's what makes it tricky. Right?
You're right. I know that'll come into my
then, how do you say, how do we advance the personal stuff? The Penny versus Dad, Penny versus Mom, Penny versus, you know, the dog.
And another sort of related question is I'm listening to you. So I'm doing all this work with them. I know Emily's going to start doing it too. Because I don't want to be the only guy who's looking at her. So does it, just tell me this, does it make more sense for me to always be training her and doing all this kind of stuff, or does it make sense for Emily to start doing it as well?
Everybody. Because what happens is, when you're around, Penny's behavior yourself. Your association and I'm with Dad disciplines me. But when it's with me and Mom doesn't. And we're going to get consistency. Okay? So everybody, in my opinion, within the home, dog's bottom of the barrel. Now, let's say, because you have a daughter, correct? Let's say she doesn't want to do the remote, but she's not going to like go against it. So like, let's say your daughter were to say something to Penny, like, no, stop. You would have to reinforce that. Now, the thing here is Penny doesn't know where it's coming from. So she just knows, oh, what's her daughter's name?
Isabella, Bella.
Bella? Let's say Bella says no to Penny. You remote for Bella.
I got it.
She doesn't connect that.
I got it.
Okay? Because I get families where a person's not comfortable using the remote. I have one right now.
Yeah.
And I'll tell them, well, as long as they don't dissuade you or the real problem happens when I get a family that's split. And half the family wants to train and half the family doesn't.
Right.
So then they'll remove the collar or whatever. They'll say, stop remoting the dog. And then the person complies. And now the dog will learn when this person is around, you won't fully discipline him. You know, it's like kids. With me growing up, it was my grandma.
Right.
You know, my grandma would be like, no, leave him alone.
You're right.
So I learned I could get away with stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay. So dogs have a learning capacity of a 3 to 4 year old toddler. So if you start, like, if you see those things and you know those things, obviously from Bella and raising her, those patterns, it's the exact same stuff here.
Oh, I know.
Anything else? So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and just do a quick review.
Okay.
Then we're gonna work on the second half of heal, and then I'll give you a quick kind of overview of the problem behaviors we're experiencing and how we're gonna start addressing that.
All right.
Okay? Whenever you're ready, go ahead.
What do you want me to do?
Just what you've been practicing with the heel, the back and forth stuff.
Okay. Let's go. Tell me when to turn it.
Good. Slow turn. Keep moving. Pull to your left. Tap. There you go. Good.
Make sure it's not the same side as your e-collar.
There we go. Another little slow turn here. There you go. Good turn. I'm going to have you, tap, pull it to your left. Good job. And I'm going to have you speed up and then drastically slow down when you're ready. Good. Going slow and turn. Good. And relax your arm. Good. Now go ahead and speed up. And then slow down. A little slower. Good. Slower. And then slow to a stop when you're ready. And tap. Did we go over sits last time? The auto sits? Lightly pull up here and tap. There you go, and relax. Very good. Excellent. So we're going to work on the second half of heel. So this week we weren't saying anything formally. We were just tapping and, of course, making her stick to the side. On your actual walks that you were doing, were you finding yourself having to correct and stuff, or was she pretty much just right by your side? Okay.
Well, she, I was using verbal command of back, and I would give her that command, and 9 times out of 10 she would back up and go right back on my knee. Like if she was starting to pull forward a little bit, she'd come right back, right on my knee. When I turned with her, I just held my arm out like this, and she, like, honest to God, like 9 times out of 10, just turned without any other prompt or anything else. Without calling me, without going way out in the circle, just stayed right with me and came around like that.
Gotcha.
So I'm a little bit surprised that she wasn't doing that right now.
Okay. So what we want to do here is when she starts to forge ahead, is instead of staying back, you want to use that remote. Okay. So if she gets ahead of you, you want to make that 180 turn, tap, and go the opposite way. You're trying to get more collar in than words. Collar is what's going to dissuade stuff from happening. Okay. Because then let's say you're on a walk and you say back, and she does go back, right? But then every single walk you have to say back, you know, X amount of time.
Right. So it goes back to your earlier point about doing something until I stop and tell her not to do it.
Correct. So instead, I just go, oh, you're getting ahead, turn, tap, catch her off guard, and go, every time you get ahead of me, I just find that you change direction. So it's going to make her want to pay attention more.
Got it.
So, and I personally don't care about the obedience stuff, especially for a case like this. I care about the discipline that we're putting behind it, right? That remote, that we're dealing with aggressive responses. So the more we're in her head about remote, I'm trying to make her more worried about that consequence than she is about whatever's going on that's making her want to give you that aggressive response. Okay. So, otherwise, her positioning was good, the turn was good. Okay, what I'm having you do is keep those arms down, because now we're going to add a couple of things today that are going to help clarify for her what you're doing, so that you're not going to need that arm to communicate to her that you're turning. Okay. So the first thing we're going to add in here is the verbal cue of heel. Heel is the on switch, so technically you don't say anything. Penny can roam and do her doggy thing. But the moment you cue the word heel, that's when everything that we covered last week, everything we're going to cover next week, this week, goes to effect. Okay. So, super simple exercise. You're going to cue the heel word, and then you're going to roll the left leg. It's going to be heel, left leg, and then you walk from it, so stop, heel, left leg, walk from it. Okay. So have your this pattern 5 times. It's just to get into your muscle, okay? And I find it easiest to give that cue of heel first, and then you roll that left leg, as opposed to doing them both simultaneously. Okay? Now we only say heel when we go from stationary to motion. So if you're already moving and Penny gets ahead of you, I wouldn't say heel and turn. I would just turn and tap. Okay, so I make the word, I say the word once, and then I make the dog comply or I reinforce it. Okay? Questions? So whenever you're ready, you'll do the heel and then left leg. You can just keep it back and forth right here. Okay?
Heel.
Good. Good. 4 more.
Heel.
Good. And go ahead and get ready for a turn. Tap. Good. Yep, and forward. Good. Good. And heel, last one.
Heel.
Very good.
So I'm wondering why she was coming this way.
Oh, so we're because those stops are abrupt. So, remember last week? Do you remember what you wanted to do before you turned?
Before I turn, I know one thing because I had the car on like a yard out when I go thinking that I mean over here. So I was kind of queuing around this way.
What do you do when you stop when you're driving? Before you stop?
Put off the gas.
And which would be?
Off the gas, accelerator, and go onto the brake.
Right? And what does that do to the car?
Well, it stops it.
Yeah, and before it stops, what's it going to do?
It slows down.
It slows down. Exactly. It'll slow down. Okay. So right now you're just doing a heel to a few steps when they'll stop, right? And that's what I was worried about. But the reason why she was overshooting it is because you said heel, you move, and you were just stopping. So her brain was still in motion that she had to swerve around. So it's actually like driving. When someone in front of you stops so abruptly and you don't have enough time to stop completely, you have to slow and then turn your car to avoid that collision. Okay? So very similar. So when we drive, before we stop, we slow down, and before we turn, we slow down. Okay.
Okay.
And we're gonna go more in depth with this today as well. So it's the same thing for the dog. So for Penny, she will never know what's on your mind. She'll never know when you're gonna turn left at this light and right at the stop sign and come to a stop. You know all that stuff, right? You're the one leading that walk. So prior to every turn and prior to every stop that you're gonna be doing going forward, is you wanna make sure that you do slow down at least 3 steps. More is perfectly fine, okay? Now, if you're doing your job, right, and you're walking with Penny and you slow down and she keeps going, what does that tell us?
Well, she didn't anticipate that I was going to stop.
Well, not to stop, because you didn't stop yet, right? You're still in motion. You changed your pace, so you did your job. You changed your pace to communicate to Penny, hey, something's changing, but she keeps going.
Yeah.
So what would that be?
She doesn't know. I mean, I don't know how to answer the question.
Not paying attention.
She's not paying attention. Okay.
Not paying attention.
She's daydreaming.
Yes. And I ask questions because I feel like it helps people retain things even more.
I'm right there with you, Socrates.
Yeah. So, heel. Slowing down, right? Cueing to her, I'm doing something different. If the dog is paying attention, she slows down as well. You come to that stop. Very easy. Okay? If she's not paying attention, much like someone driving, person in front of them slows down, they're not paying attention, they're on their phone or whatever, collision. Okay? Same kind of concept. So if I slow down and Penny keeps going, what do I want to do to... Oh, is that, you okay?
Yeah, he's out for blood. Trying to get me. Anyways, keep going. I'm not that worried about it.
You slow down, she doesn't slow down with you, we would want to correct that. So we would do that turn back to bring her back to your left side. Okay? That's what increases her level of focus on what you're doing. I don't need her to be staring at you the whole walk like this. That's not realistic, okay? But dogs do have a wider peripheral range than humans do, so she can see what's going on here. So when you're moving, and all of a sudden you start to slow down, she sees that, and then she should naturally slow down with you, okay? And it's all through body language. And we're gonna cover all that stuff. So we have the heel left leg. The reason why we're doing the left leg is because that's closest to her. She sees that coming forward. That tells her now we're moving again, okay? In more advanced training, left leg means to move forward. Right leg would mean she doesn't move, okay? And we have someone coming up behind you. So give a tap here as you step aside. Tap. That's just to shut down that anxiety. There we go. Good. So for the turns, there's ways that we use our body language to communicate to Penny or to the dogs what it is that we're doing, okay? So if I'm gonna make a left turn or a crossover turn, because you're crossing over Penny, most people tend to do the left leg. And when you do that, you have to like shove the dog aside. It's very awkward, it doesn't work very well. What you wanna do is time it so that your right leg is the one that's crossing over, and we wanna cross over at a 90-degree angle, okay? So if I'm turning with Penny, and I use the sidewalk as a guide, I'm turning right on that crack, and I'm cutting right in front of her with this leg. So for her, if she's coming forward, and we've slowed down, she's gonna see this, and dogs will, for the most part, naturally turn so that your left leg can come out, and then you'll turn in again with your right leg. Now I'm going back the opposite way. Good. Right, left, right. So if I keep it on the sidewalk, and I time it correctly, right, left, right, I'll be within the width of the sidewalk, right, left, right. And without any remote or anything else, no leash pressure, anything like that, Penny should be just moving with you naturally, okay? Because we're using body language. Dogs are masters of reading body language. So the crossover turn tends to be the hardest for people because now we're having to think about things. Now we're having to time our leg movements. That's why I say slow down, for one, for the dog, but for two, for the owner, I'll tell them slow down as much as you need to. Get your leg timing right so that when you're crossing over with that right leg, okay? If it feels awkward, something's off. It should never feel awkward, it should feel very smooth, okay? The next turn is gonna be our 180 pivot, going to the immediate right. So this is the correctional turn that you've been doing. So if she gets ahead of you and you go like this, tap, tap, that would bring Penny right here, okay? That's when she's not paying attention. When she is paying attention, it would be unfair to just turn out of nowhere because she has no line of communication. So before the turn, we're gonna wanna slow down, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna use our left leg, extend the left leg, back with the right leg, now forward to the left, now we're going the opposite way, okay? So it's the same as, it's like the others. The left turn was gonna be right, left, right. The pivot turn, or the 180 right turn is the opposite of left, right, left. Now you're going the opposite way. Okay, so the turns that you were doing, Penny's on your left. I think you're making a wide right turn. Now you're not going to need that leash anymore. Because when you extend this leg, if Penny is paying attention, you should see her start to come around you because you're kind of stalling a bit. And by the time you're back here again, you should be together moving in unison. Okay, and I'll coach you through this. We're going to do it one turn at a time.
Really bad dancer.
We're going to do this one turn at a time. We're going to focus on the crossover turns first, because that tends to be the hardest. So we're going to do, again, one more time. It's right, left, right. And we want to remember to make sure that we slow down prior to that turn so that Penny can catch what you're doing. Now, no matter what turn you're trying to do, if you slow down and Penny keeps going, don't try to complete the turn. She's not paying attention. Instead, go to that correctional tap turn to bring her back to your side and correct that problem before you try to go into the turn. Okay? Otherwise, and I see this happen all the time, the dog will start to forge. The owner wants to make a left turn, so instead of correcting them, they'll just literally run around the dog and come around them. And I'm like, how did that feel? They're like, it was really awkward. I'm like, yeah, you didn't correct the dog. Okay? Questions?
Nope.
So let's go ahead and bring it back on the sidewalk. Very good. And you're gonna go heel left leg, and then you're gonna hug on the right side of the sidewalk. And when you're ready, make sure to slow down at least 3 steps, and then right, left, right.
Heel.
Tap forward, tap forward. There you go. Pull to your left, tap, keep moving. Tap, pull to your left. She's there. Got a girl. Very good. Pull to your left, tap, good.
And I'm gonna slow down.
Right, left, right. Okay. Now, see how your left arm's coming out?
Yeah.
Instead, power through with your legs and use your legs to move her away. Like literally just like plow through.
Just keep my arms like basically down here.
Correct, at your hip.
So don't, okay. I can tell she's getting tired. Come on, come on.
Forward, tap.
Ready?
Yep.
Heel.
So that one you led with your left. Did you see how you had to like shove her aside?
Yeah.
Feel it? Yeah.
Hey. I wonder if she needs water. Okay, ready? Heel.
Right, left, right.
And I just body blocked her into the turn.
So see how she, because when you were slowing down, we're losing her. So right when she starts to go off, I just go into a pivot tap to bring her back in line and try again. Okay?
Heel.
Left. There you go. Very good. I think it's the best one you've done so far. Right, left, right. You got it. Very good. Just try 3 more just like that. Those are exactly what they're supposed to be like.
Okay.
Right, left, right. You got it. Good job. 2 more. Right, right, left, right. It's okay. But you
I had to think about my footing.
Yeah, that's the thing about this.
It's like, if we do the last one, here we go.
Right, left, right. Very good. You got it. So, super common. That's what left turns are always hardest. Okay, and you got to think about stuff now. I've been doing this for 10 years. Like I can't do it incorrectly. It's like mind-boggling for me because I've done it for so long. Once you get used to it, no big deal. Now you're gonna do the pivots, the 180 pivots. Okay. These tend to be easier. Most people tend to do these turns naturally, but that's gonna be the left, right, left, and now you're going the opposite way. Same rule of slowing down prior applies. Whenever you're ready, have you do a batch of 5.
Yeah, see what this guy's doing.
He's starting.
Ready? Heel.
Right, left, you got it. Good.
And I'm turning my right.
To your right, correct. Right, left, you got it. Correct, good. 2 more. Got it. 1 more. Left, right, left, and slow to stop. Very good. So, same turns that you were doing earlier, but without the leash. Because she's reading your movements. Okay? Yeah. So, heel is 2 parts. Heel is Penny, you pay attention to me. And then the other part is for the handler, making sure that she is paying attention, reinforcing when needed with that turn and tap. Otherwise, it's making sure we lead with those movements correctly. Slowing down before a turn or a stop. Cueing the left turn with the right leg and cueing the 180 pivots with the left leg. So it's a leg opposite to the turn is how you're leading, okay? Now, if you're making simply a soft left turn, you would just cross your your right leg and then just keep going straight. You wouldn't make a full Yui like this. If you're doing a soft right turn, same concept, you're leading with your left leg, but you wouldn't do that rock back because you're not going 180, you're going to the right, okay? So slowing down before all these turns, she should get it no problem. What I recommend that people do is before your walk, let her do her business, get set up, do 5 heel to stops, 5 heels to left turns, and then 5 heels to 180 pivots, okay? So you just cover like this much space like you did here, and then you start your walk. So it's like the warm up, because you got to get in your muscle memory, okay? Right. The hard part is...
And it also gets her focused on, hey, we're going to go do some work.
Right, you're getting her to start being mindful of you. So then on your walk, the hard part is, here we're walking to a red light, we're going to turn left and trying to make it fluid. So as you're approaching that stoplight, you'd be slowing down, getting ready to time those legs so you can turn with the right leg, and then you would pick up speed again and then just keep going. Yeah. Okay, that's the hard part, is the natural application of it. But once you get used to it, you don't even think about it. If you're working with her and you're finding like, man, Penny is not as easy or as attentive as she was at Independence Park when I worked with Jesse, you're probably not slowing down, okay? More often than not, it's usually the owners aren't slowing down or Penny's not paying attention. But technically, if you're slowing down and she's getting ahead of you, I wouldn't do that turn because she just told me she wasn't paying attention. I would tap and turn, get that focus again, turn again if I need to go back the other way, and then try to come to that stop or try to come to that turn again. Penny, her right shoulder parallel to your left leg is the visual. That's your your reference point. If that right shoulder is even an inch ahead of your left leg, that's technically something we would correct, because the whole saying, if you give them an inch, they'll take a mile, is very common with dogs, okay? So the more you can catch those things at a lesser degree, the tighter and more reliable this level of obedience is gonna be, okay? So pretty simple stuff. Now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna have you do same stuff, heel, left, crossover turns, and the pivots, but you do it however you want. So you're gonna use them interchangeably, okay? Questions? A little freestyle Dancing with the Stars here.
Yeah. So when you're ready.
Go ahead.
Heel. Oops.
Good. Good pivot. Good pivot. Right, left, right. Good, very good. Couple more. Good. Very good. Questions about that?
Nope.
Questions about other stuff?
I don't think so. I think she did really well today.
Yeah. So here,
She's picking it up.
when we have the focus and the level of communication correct, it should seem easy. I tell everybody, it should never feel like an argument with your dog. Okay, we teach the concept first. First week, all I cared about was getting Penny to walk to your side. That's it. It was super simple. Now that we've gotten that, I go, great. Now let's work on the handle. This is what you do to communicate to Penny. Changes, your movements, stuff like that. Again, she will never read your mind. She's not going to become psychic. But you can communicate with her with the way you move to let her know, hey, this is what we're doing, so it's a very smooth walk. Okay? That's how I walk my dogs. Is how we walk upwards up to like 8 dogs at a time. The most I've walked is 12 dogs at a time, and they all walk with me because I know how to use my body. Okay? Because trying to stop abruptly with 12 dogs is they're going to keep going. So knowing how to slow down and taking the appropriate time and all that stuff is a huge factor in that. Okay? So this is the package of HEAL. HEAL is a bunch of behaviors rolled into one word. Baseline is walk with me, stay with me, and sit when I stop. Okay? That's Penny's. Those are her rules. Rules for you, of course, to slow down before it's very important to stop. Cueing those crossovers to the right leg, and cueing when they put it to the left leg when she's paying attention, and if she's not paying attention, being sure to just turn, tap, tap, and not use the cue of back, because then you'll simply end up untrained. Okay? Dogs are constantly learning. So, because everybody always asks, when does the training stop, Jesse? I'm like, it doesn't. The dogs aren't proactive like humans are. You know, when I was younger and I had the time, I wanted to learn how to play guitar. So I was like, I'm going to get up and I'm going to play guitar for 30 minutes, twice a day. And I was proactive about that. And then I got busier, business and all that stuff, and I don't play guitar as much. But if I wanted to be more proactive about it, I just make that decision, and then I could be right back to the rest 2 times a day. Penny and other dogs don't do that. She doesn't think like, oh wow, they taught me how to walk nicely today, so I'm going to choose to just walk nicely with them, and not have to worry about give them the worry of having to remotely correct me to do so. I'm just going to do it naturally. That's not how dogs think. Dogs are reactive. She responds to what's going on in that given moment. So if you take her out without the equipment and you say heel, and she thinks, well, that collar's not on today. What happens if I do this and I don't do that? And I do this and I slip on this and I put on that? And we can't reinforce it to the degree that we could with the collar. She now ends up having. Okay? Questions? Nope. So, correcting behaviors. Pretty simple. We'll start with the easy ones. Okay? So we'll start with the territorial behavior in the car. Is that something you want to eliminate, or is that something you want to control?
Well, I think in this case, this might be something I just want to flat out eliminate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, you have her collared up, and I started the typical police level, which today was 35. And you're in the car, and put yourself in a situation, where she's going to come out. And I would probably, does she sit right in the back or anything?
Yeah, well, so it's on the way back of my daughter's got a Verano, my wife's got a Nav. So she's all the way in the back. Okay. Does she ever hop over to get in the front, or can she not do that? Yeah, that's good.
Okay. So, only reason why I ask is sometimes a dog, when you remote to correct them, will jump to the front because they're thinking to get closer to you. Okay. So if that were to be a possibility, I would suggest tying the leash around something to tether her to keep her. Okay. I don't know, maybe go to Sonic. Somebody walks up to you. She starts blowing up. You don't say anything. You just start tapping at 35. I have my free tap rule. So I would, for on 35, I go tap, tap, tap. If she's still barking, 40. Tap, tap, tap. Still barking, 45. Tap, tap, tap. 50. Tap, tap, tap. 55. Right? Keep going. And then maybe you hit 70. And all of a sudden you get, she gives a little yip. But then she shuts up. The person comes over and goes, hey, I'll take your order. Blah, 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 right? When they leave, they come back with your order. She doesn't do a thing. 70. Okay? Leave, and maybe I try again the next day or whatever. Find another different context. She's in the backseat of the car, and I go, you know what? Yesterday it was at 70. Let me try 55, 60. Okay? Because as you stop these behaviors, her brain is not going to the level of intensity. Typically, they won't go to the same level because you already capped them at one point. So she's gonna be a little hesitant. So you might stop her at 55, 60. And then we go, do you retain this? And that's where repetition comes into play. Okay? Or she just may flat out need 70. That's where repetitions come in. Because then they'll tell you, like, you know what? 70 stopped her immediately, and they came and went, no problem. When we went down to 55, 60, it became I had to stop her when we got there, and I had to stop her when they came back in the same context of that 10 minutes. Okay? And that's how we start to decipher things. So then if I note, like, oh yeah, 70 is the said and done number, then it's just 70. Okay? And then you start to see a bigger gap, and I start, how'd you say, putting her in more context. I'm pushing her. I'm really testing the boundaries of her behavior. So like in Chicago, there's like certain intersections where I know there's going to be a homeless person that goes to my car. Right? So I go, okay, I'm going to use that to my advantage, and I'm going to pass these intersections.
The off-ramp.
Exactly. The off-ramp, right?
At Armitage and get off, heading into the city, get off at Armitage, there's almost always somebody right there. Or even the viaduct, like on the Fullerton.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know exactly. I'm right there. I'm right by there. So, little things like that. Okay? And then we see just how her behavior changes. Now, again, dogs are reactive, right? In terms of what the context is. Let's say you put her in the car, you're in a rush, oh shit, we're running late to Jessie. You don't call her up. You pass by that same context. Ideally, if we put in enough harsh correction or appropriate correction, she thinks, I don't even want to try this with the collar off. Okay? But if she does try it and it goes unaddressed, it is what it is. Don't worry about it. It's not going to set you back a milestone. But she may become a gambler, where she's going to think, oh, like today I barked at somebody approaching the car, there was no correction. And then she starts, even with the collar on or off, she's going to start testing. Okay? That's just something to bear in mind. That's why I tell people to take a pop on a collar. When the dog has a collar on, they're going to change their behavior, alter the behavior accordingly. When the collar's off, they're going to know, like, I can get away with more things.
So when I come to visit you, it's generally a 45-minute drive where I live. Do you want me to have the collar on when she gets in the car?
Yes. Now we're going to start being proactive also, for sure.
And then what about this thing?
Have you seen any redirect?
No. Nope. When I try to muzzle her?
Actually, let's keep the muzzle on. Because now, like let's say earlier, when I approached you and she started barking, right? The next time I see you, collared up, muzzled up, right? And we're going to anticipate that when I walk up again, we're going to get that same response. Because we got it last time, we got the facility, and we got it today, right? So we're going to assume it's going to happen. So what you would do is exactly what you've done here. You see how you kind of shorten your leash a bit? Yeah. And you're standing with her? Because when she goes into an aggressive state, we may potentially get what we call the redirect, and this is what happened with your dog.
Right. She's going to take it out of me.
Correct, right? So of course it's to keep other people safe, but as well to keep yourself safe. Now, if you do this 100 times, where you correct her for that, which ideally should be 100 times, and we see no redirect, then we can assume we can correct her without the muzzle on and not worrying about is she going to come back towards us.
Okay.
Now, I still always teach that up and away, just in case, right? Because dogs aren't stupid. Dogs spike the muzzle because they know it's removing their primary source of defense. Okay, and so once you remove it, like I get dogs where the owner will say, like, you know what, with the muzzle on, the dog doesn't do crap. But as soon as I take it off, they're more reactive. And I go, yeah, because they know the association. Okay, So we have to figure out what is Penny, what's her personality type, how is she going to progress. So my suggestion would be, until we get a full kind of understanding of what she does when being corrected with aggression, when she goes into aggressive state, then we can worry about removing the muzzle. Okay?
So if I take her like on a road trip, or take her to the city or whatever, just have her like this.
Yeah. Okay. And then if she becomes aggressive, I want you to start getting in the habit of, instead of pulling back, you want to pull straight up. Up, step away. We do this simultaneously, and remote. And when you, like, let's say I'm Penny, bark, 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 right? And when you tap and you get this, what does this look like?
Submission.
Good. Okay, that's a good answer. For most people, they would see a sit. Okay, they see the physical, whereas I'm looking at the mental. Okay, so if she's agitated, when she's aggressive, that the brain is in a state of agitation in a negative manner, right? That when I remote her and she sits down, we're not putting her in a sit, we're putting her in a relaxed state, a submissive state. Okay, so just to make sure that we're clear on that, because most trainers and people will say the dog's being aggressive, you're going to put them in a sit, and I tell them the sit doesn't mean anything. The dog can sit and still think about biting you. We're wanting to break and dissuade the dog from thinking that process of going through that process of I want to bite or lunge and bark at this person. Okay? That's the difference between obedience and behavior. Okay, behavior is about this. Obedience is about the physical. Down, sit, come, heel. What you're doing here is obedience. Okay, we're doing this to teach you what that means, to get you used to using the tool and how it works, so that we can start going into behavior. Okay. Other questions?
No, it's like if you're a private and you show up for basic training and you're going to do a hell of a lot of marching, and you might think it's a total waste of time. Why are we marching? Because it's breaking that down. It's obviously getting you to work as a unit, but then you're also learning cues for things that you have to do, and just getting that ingrained. And that's how I take the importance of doing all of this.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that like the mental aspect of it, like so working in the unit. I mean, when I've seen or heard a march, it's like the rhythm, right? Of like 100 people in unison. Like that's a lot of focus, right? And you can't. I don't think I'd be able to like daydream and maintain that rhythm, that strictness, right? That timing. Same thing here. So this exercise, like I have another Aussie that we meet here as well. Same issues, and on the second class, we're going to do it right now with Penny as well. At the end of the second class, I go, let's try the touch sensitivity. So this is a dog that when other people approach the owner, lunges and barks, just like Penny does, okay? So I had my sleeve with me, and I went to touch the dog. And we had prepared, I said, we're going to expect aggression, and we're going to plan for it, but we're going to see what happens. And I went and I touched the dog, and the dog's name is Blue, by the way, if you want to take a look. That's towards the end of the session. And you see him look, my friend got a picture of it, he looked very awkward and was licking his lips. That was all stress response. And he's saying, I don't like what's happening right now. But we didn't see aggression. Okay? And the owner was like, I would have thought he would have lunged. And I said, no, much less likely now, because now we got discipline in the brain. The dog's not so in a stimulated state of mind. The stimulation very easily becomes nervousness, fear, anxiety, or aggression.
Right.
Okay, people see this happiness as happiness, and I go, no, that's excitement. And when you got a dog with issues, that excitement very easily translates.
You can go in 3 or 4 different places.
Exactly. That's why we focus on this first. I go, calm that brain down, get some discipline in the brain, and we go, let's see what it fixes. Okay. Now, it doesn't mean that anybody can just come up to him and pet him, but I told the owner, what we would expect this to fix is if somebody came up to approach you and talk to you, that he's not going to become reactive because he's in a passive state. Okay, and then we got to work on other things individually, like the nervousness and the aggression and all that stuff. Yeah. But we got like the kind of top layer issue done. Okay, so like right here, you see how she's staring and how her ears perked up? That's something that you can actually remove. Okay, because of the alertness. I don't care if she's staring at the dog if there's no dog aggression or reactivity. I care about the alertness. Right? There's no reason for you to be alert about a dog across the block 100 feet away. Look at her and give a tap. 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 You're at 35?
Yeah.
Let's go to 43. Yeah. There it is. Like pull up. Yep. There you go. And we see what she does next. So here, do you see that difference?
Yeah.
So on 35, she kept looking, right? But this will still happen. You go to 43, and as soon as you did the hit, whoa, what was that? Too much.
Right.
Okay? So that was actively disengaging the brain from whatever it was over there that she thought she had to worry about.
Whatever the stimulus was.
Yes, and this is like very similar to when you're in the car and she's being reactive, except your number may be higher because she's in a higher level of agitation.
Sure.
Now, as you start to cap it, and maybe you put her in those contacts, you might find she doesn't jump to lunging and barking in the car. Maybe she starts whining. You would correct that as well, but you may not need to correct it at the level that you corrected the lunging and barking itself, which is at a lower degree.
Yeah.
Okay. People tend to only focus on the extreme stuff, the very obvious, oh, lunge and bark, snap, bad. I go, no. Like, even like the other stuff, even like the watching as the person's passing for 3 seconds, because that's 1, then it builds to 2, and 2 goes to 3, 4, 5, 6, then you have 10 again, right? So I remote everything and I disgroup everything that I know she shouldn't worry about, because you're the one that knows. She doesn't. Okay, you're the one that knows that dog's a threat. These people on the bike are a threat. Jesse coming up and saying hi is a threat. We actually waited for his time, right? But she doesn't know that. So you're clarifying for her when you correct her, saying that's not necessary. Okay? Questions?
So we had an incident the other day.
Okay.
It wasn't anything bad, but I live in a neighborhood and there's every other house has a dog, or so it seems, all different varieties. And so I was walking with her. She was doing a great job. We were getting close to home.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, I noticed that she was turning around and she was looking.
Mm.
And then here comes a girl, probably 12, 13 years old, with a Labradoodle. And the Labradoodle's coming right at my dog. And the girl's thinking, hey, it's a cute dog. I'm just going to come up and it's my dog. And all I could think to do was to say, no, 5 or 6 times in a row. Which really started hustling out of that. Because I didn't know how she was going to react to that.
Right.
I didn't know if she was going to be protective of me, if there was going to be a, dogs sniffing each other out for hierarchy kind of issue going on, or what?
Yeah.
So how should I handle that situation?
So one is assume always with a dog like Penny, I just assume she's going to perceive threat. Okay. Dogs don't greet face to face in their world. They go face to nose to butt.
Yeah, right.
The yin yang, okay? That's how they greet each other. Face to face is very confrontational, and especially when you got a young girl, right, with this energy as well.
Yeah.
Maybe, and I've had dogs be perfectly fine with being greeted on leash for dogs until they don't like the energy. Okay, and in their world they regulate each other. In our world, we have cops and laws and prisons and judges and jails that do that, right? So in her world, if she's like, yo, don't approach me like that, boom, in her world, it's valid. In our world, it's liability, it's a problem, okay? So if that's the case, one thing, I'm very blunt. Like, I'll just say no, and I'll be very firm. If the girl is like too involved, like here, if I don't have, because you may not always have the opportunity to run away, is I'll even stick out my foot as a block, okay? And I'm not doing it to kick the dog, but a lot of times when you do this, I've had to do this with kids, because I have 3 dogs, I had 3 dogs, and my dogs are fine with kids, but they don't like being charged by kids. Okay? They're not going to bite or anything like that, but they'll like shuffle away. They're like, yo, you already started this with a bad experience, right? As I've had to, because it's so off guard, I'll put my foot out, and the kids are like, what the hell? They get more kind of like, why is your foot out at us? And I'll go, no, you're not going to touch my dog. Then it allows the brain to like, what's going on here, right? Because sound doesn't always carry over. You have to, use your judgment, of course. If it's kind of like crap, I don't have much choice in terms of preventing this. Choking up on that leash, the closer you are to the collar, the more immediate leverage you're going to have. Moving Penny back and being that buffer. So if you Penny me, whatever this is, okay, to keep him back. Now, I would hope that with you doing all of that stuff, that the person would, you know, be like, what's going on. I get that it was a kid, you know, and they're not gonna.
They're friendly labradoodles. They go by their house all the time. And they're like bouncing around like they do. It's like,
Yes. And that's what I tell my clients when they have their dogs. I tell them, teach your kids to ask for permission to interact and pet your own dog.
absolutely.
Because that's how they're going to behave with other people's dogs.
That's right.
So that's exactly what happened to you.
That's
the
right.
kid's thinking like every dog we've met has been this experience.
Yeah.
That's not
It
reality.
just takes room.
Yes, right. So you did what you could. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been charged by off leash dogs. I tell her like, I know Penny and I know we're working on stuff, right? If I had Penny in my possession and I was walking her and I know she has her things, right? And a dog charges us off leash, I would protect Penny despite that stuff. Does that make sense? Like I don't hold it against her. Like if I have a dog that's a resource guarder or like doesn't like having her collar close and all that stuff and they can be like too aggressive or whatever, it's still my job to protect them in the real world should something happen. You know, I don't go like, well, you know, you're a jackass, so I'm not just let this happen to you. So you do want to bear that in mind when you're walking with her. In her eyes, somebody has to take charge, and right now it's just me and her. So when I approached her earlier, she thought I'd have to protect that for whatever reason until we get in her head that she doesn't have to. But in those settings, I don't want to hurt the dog. Okay, this actually happened at our facility maybe 3 or 4 weeks ago. We had an off-leash. We had a dog escape a neighbor's yard, 2 or 3 houses down, get out the yard, and charge my employee as he was walking out the front door where you drop Penny off with 4 or 5 dogs for the walk. And he had to put his foot out. So he put his foot out. The dog slowed down, like, what the hell is this? And then the dog, it's a friendly dog, goes, oh, you have a bunch of dogs. Let me say hi. So the dog advanced. And he had a dog that's not dog friendly. So then he had to kick the dog in order to get him to back off, and then use his foot to keep the dog at bay until the owner came. And then it blew up into this whole spiel. Okay, they kicked our dog's friendly, blah, 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 blah. And then they went in our Facebook and our Yelp and 1-star reviews and all that.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
And I'm like, you're barking up the wrong tree. And I explained it. I was like, look, this is what happened. Like your dog, a dog that wasn't even yours, escaped your yard, charged in front of our property. We have dogs that we need to protect. They came over and talked to us, and I said, look, your dog charged me. Like, your dog charged my employee on our property right in front of our door, and he had a dog that would have not been a pleasant experience. So by kicking that dog, yeah, that sucked, but ultimately he was protecting your dog from our dog, you know, and whatever else resolved. But not everybody's going to agree with that. I had a lady's pit attack my chihuahua at the dog park. And she took her dog, didn't say sorry, didn't apologize, didn't say your dog okay, none of that stuff. And I was perplexed. And so I just decided to keep an eye on what was going on. And then 10 minutes later, her dog comes back. She's going after my chihuahua. So I was keeping an eye on him. So I went to intercept, and I had to kick him right in the chest. And the dog jumped back there. And it blows up. What are we doing? The dog is back blowing up at me. I'm like, really? You're 60 pounds to my 8-pound chihuahua. You know, you don't even acknowledge it, and I'm the one in the wrong for defending my dog from your dog that can ultimately kill my dog. You know, it's out there, but it doesn't matter. You know, you still have to step up, in my opinion, and defend yourself, defend Penny. There's off-leash laws and all that other stuff. But you know, I think people are afraid to. I don't know why to defend themselves or the dog when that happens. And then the biggest thing is like, well, if a dog fight did occur, now there's vet bills involved, and dogs get killed over stuff like this. You know, you can just YouTube it. So if that happens again, I think you took in that moment the correct approach with what you know.
Yeah, I felt bad. I should go back to the house and just say, listen, I just want you to understand. I'm just trying to do what's best for your dog and my dog. Can't always assume that my dog's going to be friendly or in a good mood or whatever, and I just want to make sure that your beautiful dog's on good mood.
Yeah, no, for sure. Use it as a teaching moment, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But use that, especially for that kid. That's the biggest concern, right? Is that kid's going to take that same
Labradoodles, by and large, are really friendly dogs, and they're like kind of dopey, and they're running around, and you know. But just because your dog's that way doesn't mean that the neighbor's dog isn't. It's also going to be that way. And you know, and like your point about when you approach a dog, I mean, obviously we know that if we really want parents were little kids don't know that. A little 4-year-old comes up, oh, fluffy dog. Like,
Yeah.
hey, wait a second.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
she's fluffy, but what else she does? Teeth.
Yes. And I use that anytime I see people, kids, they want to pet dogs and stuff. I go, sure, let's use this as a teaching moment. Okay. So you didn't do anything bad. You handled it the best you could.
Yeah.
But not every.
When we're out walking, she doesn't have a muzzle. It's just me and this. And I don't use a prong anymore because I haven't needed to use it.
Yeah, no, it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, she's a smart dog. Obviously, she's picked up this stuff, so I don't have to give her a lot of force or whatever to get her to do what she needs to do.
Right, and that's why I just tell them to use remote. You get up to office control, and it's very non-confrontational, and you move that physicality. Because they were a phone call, or like she was still acting up. Now we have something that can naturally just wait.
And it's not perceived as being this magical thing from outer space. Sometimes
So you have your homework for this week.
I do.
If you guys, do you have my email? I know you have my phone number.
Yeah, because I know that you said Emily.
Sure. Would you guys send me an email with the topics that we need to cover? Okay, because we're gonna most likely have to schedule a Zoom to handle like the aggression within the home and stuff. To start working on that stuff, make that more like I gave you a quick rundown of how to handle the simple stuff.
So we're gonna be provoking her on the Zoom.
I'm gonna read the list and then see what it is we have to work with, because my job is to push the behavior, but at the same time not put anybody at risk.
I hear you.
So I gotta figure it. So once I get the list, I'll be able to read it and know what.
Yeah, and then just let me know if we need to have someone come in and act as a confederate to walk into the situation to get her down.
What are you guys running into?
Yeah,
How far? So 45 minutes. Okay. So I have one of my employees. He's doing some home visits for me. This exact. It's like a two-part thing here. We're on there via Zoom, and he shows up in the suit, and we can see what's going on. We can request the behavior.
Yeah.
Okay. But we'll have to coordinate that. So once I get your list of stuff.
I mean, I can always have a friend do it unless you think that you really need someone who knows what they're doing in that situation.
Well, with the suit, we can actually correct it for biting.
Oh, if you got a bite suit. Gotcha.
Yeah.
I
So
understand.
that's
I thought you meant like he's wearing a suit.
Oh yeah, no. He's got a bite suit.
Go
Yeah. So then you can send me that email, and then we'll see how to progress. This is the foundation for the behavior stuff.
Yeah. No, I got it.
Then just figuring out how we handle that.
I understand what you're doing here. Awesome. So that's it.
So if you have any questions, shoot me an email. Whenever you get that list together, shoot that to me as well.
Sounds good, man.
And then you have your homework, okay?